It is the gate out from the dungeons of hell. After fighting through various bosses of increasing difficulty and various mob monsters, again, of increasing difficulty, you have finally managed to make it to this point. Everything rides on you figuring out the puzzle that lays before you. As you arrive, you look to your left and look to your right. Your faithful warrior friend has been with you throughout the adventure, slaying everything in his path. And to your right, your wizard has been adept at solving everything using his magical spells and high intellect. But now, you come upon this gate, the gates out of hell. And none of you can understand what the fuck this is. You look to your wizard, and you ask him, what is this? Your wizard looks at the strange runes on the door. He has a grave look on his face, and then he says, it seems to be an ancient writing from a time and land far from here. I know not from whence this comes from, but I know its dreaded name. It is Algebra. The warrior looks at you, and you look at the wizard, and you and the warrior know that you came from this land. You came from this time, this world, with the existence of the ancient language of algebra. And you both fully know that both of you failed this class immediately before being sucked through a portal into hell where you began this whole adventure. But it seems now you must solve this problem, and you are literally really going to need to pull this one out of your ass. And so, you and your fellow warrior think for a moment, while the wizard is trying to deduce some spell to pull the memories out of your mind to figure out how in the world to decipher these runes and create an answer for the blanks below. Not drawn here. And so, first, you remember, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, you remembered that you actually burned the math notes that you had. And that your wizard friend tells you everything that's burned goes directly into hell. And lo and behold, in a moment of absolute ex machina, scraps of math fall from the sky of hell directly onto your head. And both of you and the warrior immediately throw up, because this was the most hated class at your school, and for good reason. The teacher refused to teach, only giving you worksheets, and not allowing you to learn anything whatsoever, while throwing tests and quizzes that you couldn't understand. However, now, the notes fell in front of you, and you had to decipher them. First, the wizard takes one of these notes and says, it says that we must find some zeros. And both of you and your friend look at each other and ask, well, what do you mean zeros? Zero is a number. It is the representation of nothingness. But the wizard says, it is actually, from this note, and I know not what this means, but it is where a graph intersects with an axis. And both you and your friend, think back a little bit, past the time where you smothered the succubus and smited this one really, really cool demon. Like, you really had to draw that down later. And you realized, yes, you did remember this a little bit. And so first, we set the x value to 0 and solved for whatever value may remain. And so your friend looked at the first time and said, here, look, this rune. It's got the 0 here must be 0, because there is no other value. And it only occurs once, right? Because there is no other number. And so you look at it, and you try to think, and you remember your teacher never taught anything, so you just kind of look at the scrap of burning paper in front of you, and you kind of assume that's the right thing. So first, you do this, and you realize that this will be 0, occurring once. And you look at the second term, and you realize, well, this one will be 4. -4, occurring once. Why so? Yeah, your friend asks. Because you set it to 0, and so this positive sign will be negative. When you set this to 0, you will have a -4. You get out a magical stick inside of your pocket, and you remembered that this was actually a pencil, and that in transferring to hell in your imagination, that you actually turn this into a stick that could draw on anything, including the air. Quite handy for you, isn't it? You solved for x, and you realize, yes, it was -4, occurring once. We move on to this term, the third term, and your friend is absolutely confused, while your wizard continually looks at this as if he had seen nothing like this before, and just looks behind at your pet dog and says, "Scruffy, what in the world is going on here, my friend?" While Scruffy looks around, barks furiously, pulls out the sword with his mouth while still barking furiously, somehow through his mouth while holding a sword, and realizes that demons have come for you, and you must solve this problem a lot faster if you're really going to get out of here alive. And so, you remember that you can take out -1 in order to force this to become an x minus 5, swapping the terms and making the function negative. However, there's a 2 here, meaning that its degree is 2, changing it so that you must take out 2 -1s, as there are now 2 x minus 5s. And while you mention this out loud to yourself, both your wizard friend and a nearby demon look at you as if you have gone absolutely insane. However, you realize that with these 2 negatives, your function is still positive, and you now have a +5 occurring twice, and these are your zeros, with their multiplicity. Your friend continually looks at you and asks you how in the world you remember this, and you remind him that you don't, as there are still continually scraps of paper falling from the sky with basically the answers on them, and that you're really, really lucky right now. Now then, we continue on. Next, using some more scraps of paper, burning literally into your hands at this point, as you're grabbing burning paper, and some of it was love letters to your crush, others were NSFW drawings, and your friend looks at you and is like, "Why would you draw that?" And you kind of look at him, You kind of look at him sheepishly and go like, "It was a difficult time. I don't really get it. But now, you must find out whether they cross or touch at the x-axis at each x-intercept, otherwise known as a 0, otherwise known as a root, otherwise known as a solution. And the wizard is casting fireball spells, looking at you as if you're insane, and while a goblin steals his gold, he asks you to please stop going insane and hurry the hell up. And so you continue on and realize that if it is an odd multiplicity, you will have a cross at that 0, and if even, it must be a touch. Your friend, now fighting off demons himself, not really caring, looks at you and asks you to please stop and keep going. But you continue talking out loud to yourself, because this is really the only way you're going to solve it at this point, as the rest of your mind has been driven insane by Satan's machinations and the boring lectures of your math teacher, still going on right now in the real world. And now, when you think about it, your math teacher might actually teach if you think that they're giving a lecture, and then realize that the lecture is about how their family is doing in Panama. Now then, having figured this out, you now move on to find out the power function, which is going to be the lead coefficient, being absolutely nothing in this case, along with the degree of the entire polynomial, which is going to be 4, counting up your multiplicity. And you sit here and think that that was rather easy, and then remember, you must also dictate the end behavior of this power function for it to work, and for the door to open a little bit, and grant your party plus 5 health, plus 5 dexterity, and plus 10 strength, and also to the wizard, plus 11 intellect. Why 11? Because we go one step beyond. And you realize that if it is of an even multiplicity with a positive coefficient, the end behavior will be up, up. Your friend then continues to finish the Konami code, saying up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, select, start, and then your entire party gains 30 lives. Now then, looking at the door, you glance down and see that the next part of the question is to determine the max number of zeros and turning points. Knowing now from continually looking at a singular scrap of paper that didn't seem relevant until this very moment, you realize that the zeros the max zeros was the degree, and the max turning points was 1 less than that. So we now have 4 and 3, and the door seems to be opening a little bit. There seem to be cracks glowing in, and you can kind of see the light of the outside of your imagination, where your math teacher is still going on about how her uncle had such a lovely time in Panama, and her brother did some crazy things while drunk, and you think, maybe I have a chance. And then your dog dies. And we will not spend any more time on this, because I am a person trying to dramatically teach math, and I'm going to take this as I go. Oh, your entire party mourns for a loss of 2 strength, and your dog calls up to you as he dies, giving you his sword. Now then, we must find now the x and y intercepts. Knowing that there is no possible way that there are any y-intercepts, as plugging x into the equation, plugging 0 into the x of the equation gives 0, which means 0, 0 is the y-intercept. You know that the x-intercepts are now 0, 0, -4 and 0, and 5 and 0. So, your wizard is starting to become overwhelmed, even with the plus 11 intellect stat, which you feel is rather ridiculous at this point. You now perform sign analysis, as looking through the cracks of the door out of your mind, as you're pretty much going insane at this point from absolute boredom, you look out and see that for once she accidentally turned on her computer, leaving open a problem showing exactly how to perform the next step, being sign analysis. Now then, sign analysis, real world talk here, is just basically you put down the domain, and then you split it up, and then you see whether or not it's negative or not. Now then, our hero in the story barely realizes this, so he uses his magical tool, his pencil, and then the wizard looks at him and says, "Do you really must have to narrate absolutely everything you're doing?" And as he says that, you say, "Yes, I do have to narrate absolutely everything I'm doing, including taking out this pencil. This is absolutely essential to my success." Then, you write down the domain into your box, your new grid. It's a nice grid, you know what? It's a very nice grid. It also happens to accidentally become a protective spell, blocking your friend from a most certainly fatal attack from an ogre. And your friend shouts a loud word of thanks while you turn around and be like, "I totally meant to do that." Right. Now then, finishing your grid, you now turn to perform the sign analysis. This was almost like a satanic ritual. Not. You put in the numbers into the equation, realizing you don't actually have to solve. You just need to see where the positives and negatives pop up. You see, and you pick the easiest value to use to perform this sign analysis. And you say, alright, I'm going to put the negative 5 into the equation and see if it's positive or negative. See, and then you go in, you see it's negative, then and negative 5 plus 4 is negative, 5 minus negative 5 is positive. Wait. Huh. Hold up. Negative 5. So 5 minus negative 5 is positive. Squared is positive. So it's below? No, wait. I think I messed up here. This is what I get for rushing my things. Alright. Hold up, guys. God damn it. Let's say negative 5 times x is negative. If negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1, 5 minus negative 5 minus negative 5 is positive, squared positive. That means it will be below the x-axis. We'll double check. Darg. Sorry. Now then, putting in a negative 3. Put in a negative 3 in to perform the second step of the sign analysis. And as the first step of the sign analysis completes, your wizard is instantly shielded from a lightning bolt coming seemingly out of nowhere, as some higher demon has lent his magical hand to try to aid in your party's destruction. But your wizard is still safe. Putting in a negative 3 into the equation, you have a negative. Negative 3 plus 4 is a positive. 5 minus negative 3 is positive. And that's below. And also, I messed up. 2 negatives make a positive. And so the first one was above. I'm a neck. Okay. And as Hell realizes that you're a neck too, another thunderbolt comes down, and your wizard is instantly struck. And his leg is disabled. He cannot flee now. Now. And he also cannot perform the make your legs quicker so you can run for it. So you really need to solve this problem. Now then, moving on to the third sign analysis. Putting in a 1 into the equation gives a positive, and a positive. As 5 minus, as it is all quite nice. Nice. As you do this, another protective rune shoots out of the gates and blocks your friend from another sword attack, but does not block the club directly to his knees. And so he lays down on the ground and says, "Ah, God, my knees, why'd you have to hit my knees?" And the demon says, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry, I was going for your arm. Are you quite alright?" As you ponder this situation, your wizard shouts at you to really just keep going. For the love of God, please. And so you continue on. Plugging in a 6 for the fourth and final step of the sign analysis. You get a positive, and another positive, giving you above once again. The door is almost flung open now. You can feel the boredom seeping back into you, but you realize that there are only 5 minutes left in the class, so you really should be going anyway. So you know what? That's fine. Let the boredom seep in. I can take it for 5 more minutes. And you realize now you must graph the entire equation so that you may leave this terrible, terrible place where you had a lot of fun adventures, and like your friend was totally in the whole game too, and like everybody around you is looking at you really weirdly, because like why the fuck are they just yelling to themselves really quietly? Like they're whisper yelling. It's like, ah, no, ah, you know, and everybody's looking at you weird, but yeah, it doesn't matter. It don't matter. And so now you graph the equation, putting in a negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You start above, you go below, go above again at the 0, and stay above by just touching at the 5, knowing that you would touch from the earlier analysis of the problem. And you now have escaped free from your imagination, and everybody is definitely looking at you now. But you and your friend know that you have just fought for your lives in the most dangerous math battle ever. And your math teacher concludes her Panama lecture by saying, "Oh, and I just had a lovely time. I absolutely loved it." Anyway, what are you two doing back there? And then you and your friend look at each other, laugh aloud, and the bell rings. And you go on to another class. Okay. Why am I doing this? Okay. This is gonna be part 1. I'm gonna do the second part later. Cause oh my god, I can't do this right now.